Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, January 22nd meeting, public meeting of the Kingston City Land Bank Board. My name is Mike. I serve as the Executive Director. Welcome to everyone here. Sorry this is awkward to turn around and it's not how we normally meet, but we're glad you're here. We do ask that members of the public limit their comments to no more than 2 minutes per speaker. And with that, I turn it over to our new board chair, Mr. Nate Hennigan.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first meeting of the Kingston City Land Bank for 2024. For those tuning in, you might notice a few changes, but I promise we are still the same KCLB that you know and love. So welcome back to all our staff, board members, new officers, and our newest board member, Barbara, who's here. Also want to say welcome to all those in attendance, both in person and on the Zoom. I know that we're holding the lottery here tonight for 3 amazing homes that the KCLB has restored. We have a couple of administrative items to get through, and then we'll jump to the lottery at the top of the meeting. First item, before we do the roll call, I just want to mention for all my fellow board members, you'll notice we are a little different tonight with the microphones. So when you want to speak, make sure to hit the button on the microphone so that this turns green and you talk into it. Otherwise, it won't get picked up on the recording. Cool? All right. All good? Excellent. So with that, we'll start with the call to order and the roll call. Do I start with me? We'll start Nate Hennigan, board chair, over to my left. We're going to go around this way, starting to my left.
Joanna Dorman, board member.
Hi, Rebecca Holderness, board member and treasurer.
Barbara Ioannidis, board member.
Ethel Knox, board member.
Bartek Stardai, board member. Aaron Chilowich, board member.
It is very strange. Okay, and with that, we have a quorum. So I'll start by entertaining a motion to accept the prior meeting minutes as uploaded to YouTube.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We're getting it. We're getting it. Good job, guys. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Next, can I entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No? All in favor? Any opposed? Oh, the motion passes unanimously. So, with that, as mentioned at the top of the meeting, tonight is a very special meeting because we are holding another lottery to determine the households who will be able to purchase the 3 newest affordable homes being offered for sale by the KCLB. 124 Franklin, 29 Rogers, and 169 Hurley. In our effort to continue to improve our process and transparency with each successive home lottery that we've held, tonight we are also going to be using a new program. So with that, I am going to share my screen. Just a moment. Hold on. Yep. Got it. Okay. So, first, I want to give a huge shout out to our staff member, Owen, who unfortunately can't be here tonight, but put in a lot of work in putting this together, as well as our staff, Mike and Kyle, for coming up with this really amazing process. So at the top of the page, you will see the ID numbers for each of the 8 qualified families, as well as their house preferences. The top 3 preferences for those families eligible for all 3 homes, and top 2 preferences for the families eligible for Hurley and Franklin only. This program will generate a random order of all 8 families, which will show as the sorted by lotto list there in the middle. Based on the order of that list, families are then offered available homes that they qualify for, which will appear at the bottom on the house assignments provisional list. Once all the homes are assigned, the subsequent families will populate the list of alternates. When a family is assigned a house, they are not offered additional houses, nor are they noted as alternates for any of the other houses. So, for example, for how this is going to work, think of the sorted by lotto list as a kind of draft order. So the family selected number 1 on that list will end up with the first selection of houses and will be provisionally assigned a house based on their first choice. The family selected number 2 on that list will then have second selection of houses and will be provisionally assigned a house from the remaining homes available in their order of preference. The family selected number 3 on that list will have third selection of houses from the remaining homes available that they are eligible for. The program will then continue down that sorted by lotto list to fill in all of the provisional house assignments and alternates. The provisional assignment of houses and list of alternates will be shown once the lotto is drawn, but this will be confirmed and finalized by the KCLB after reviewing the prioritized list of qualified families generated by the lotto. Now, the last thing I want to note before we begin, I know that some of the families might be disappointed with the outcome. So for all those families who are here tonight and following along online, know that our work continues to offer more affordable housing opportunities in the future, including several properties that we already have in pre-development as part of our Legacy Cities 2 project. And so I encourage you to reapply for our next round of home sales. And please be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and follow along on social media to get the latest updates. All right. And so with that, here we go. I'll leave that up for a couple minutes for the record as uploaded to YouTube. Apologies for those in the room if that's really small and hard to see. Yeah.
I just turned it off. I'll read these numbers here, just so everyone who is not squinting from the back can understand what just happened. Based on the program results that we just ran, the contract award for 29 Rogers Street will be the contract ID ending in 757. For 169 Hurley, it will be the contract ID ending in 524. And for Franklin, it will be the contract ID ending in 985. The first alternate for 29 Rogers will be the contract ID ending in 923. That will also be the first alternate for Hurley and for Franklin. The second alternate for 29 Rogers Street will be the contract ID ending in 887. The second contract alternate for 169 Hurley will be the contract ID ending in 717. That will also be the second alternate for 124 Franklin Street. The third alternate ID for 169 Hurley will be the contract ID ending in 021. That will also be the third alternate ID for 124 Franklin. The fourth alternate ID for Hurley and Franklin will be ending in contract ID 887. And the fifth alternate ID for both Hurley and Franklin will be the ID ending in 307. Thank you. Sorry, we're winging it in this new environment tonight. So the next steps will be for you to touch base with Eileen Clifford at Pathstone, who's on this call right now, and determine what the next steps are with us. It will involve a contract coming your way if you were a contract awardee tonight, and it will involve keeping you in the loop as households move forward with the purchase of their home if you are an alternate, to see if that becomes an opportunity for you to purchase. Thanks.
So I'm gonna leave the lotto results up for another minute or so, and then we'll move on to the next agenda item, just in case anybody needs another minute to review. Okay, so with that, we are going to move on to the next item in our agenda for tonight. Congratulations to all the provisional assignments. So for those who are attending for the first time in our meeting, if you came for the lottery, we welcome you to continue participating. We're going to move on to the next item in our agenda. So the next, sorry, we're winging it a little bit here. Okay, so the next item is board chair announcements. So first, obviously, big congratulations to the provisional housing assignment families. I'll keep this pretty brief today. Second, I want to take a minute to recognize my fellow new officers on our KCLB board. So first we have Aaron Chilowich, who was previously serving as our board treasurer and will now be serving as vice chair. Bartek Starodai, who will be continuing this year in his role as secretary, and our newest officer, Rebecca Holderness, who is now serving as board treasurer. I also want to welcome our newest board member, Barbara, and I'm going to butcher your last name, Barbara, I'm so sorry. Ioannidis. Barbara Ioannidis, who is joining us for her first meeting. We're very happy to have you and look forward to working with you. The next item, I'm excited to announce that we're having a sort of soft launch of the new KCLB website. It is live now. You can visit it at kingstoncitylandbank.org or kclb.org. So big thank you to the design committee and the whole team at KDD Marketing, formerly Katie Dwyer Designs, for their excellent work in putting it together. I'm calling it a soft launch. It's live. Feel free to play around, check it out. We will be making some minor adjustments and updates that will be coming, but we're really excited with all the new changes. Next, wanted to announce this year we also have a new Common Council liaison, Terrell Mickens. Councilwoman Mickens represents Ward 5 and has a lot of experience working with nonprofit organizations and affordable housing. Currently serving on the board of Transart and the Ulster County Habitat for Humanity. She also has lots of experience working as a grant writer with a focus on historic tax credits. So with her background and experience, I think she'll be a great fit as our liaison with the Common Council. And we look forward to meeting with her and working with her going forward. And lastly, really excited to get together with all my fellow board members this Friday at our board retreat. I know our staff has been working really, really hard on putting that together and has some great programming planned. So more on that to come. And so with that, we'll now move on to public comments. If there are any, we'll start if anyone in the room has public comments. No? Anyone on Zoom? Going once? Daniel?
Just real fast, the website looks great, and welcome, Barbara, and I miss and love you all. And have a wonderful meeting.
Thanks, Daniel.
See you later.
Any other public comments? Last call? Okay, and with that, we will move on to the Executive Director's report.
Thank you, Nate. Good evening, everyone. So I will go through, as I have in the past, where we are with our pipeline, with our pre-development, with our property sales, with our new funding opportunities, and then I have another category that's like a catch-all. So just to set the agenda for the agenda. Our pipeline still contains 9 properties, same as last month. These include 2 single-family homes. We are continuing to investigate one of the homes that were offered to us by the City of Kingston at 177 Murray. So that is the only home that's still sort of under review. Wanted to say thank you again to the City of Kingston for the license agreement to do this. The balance of the 7 homes that we're investigating under that resolution that was passed last year by the council are 5 vacant lots. So 2 of those are going to be purchased the moment that we purchase them, one by an affiliate or an affiliated local nonprofit, the other by an adjacent neighbor. And the balance of 3 we kind of have in the TBD category of what we will do when we acquire those vacant properties. The 8th property of the 9 is the one that we were awarded by the City of Kingston through a public RFP, the rights to purchase, and I will say that we are ready to purchase that property. The Phase 1 title and surveys are all done and clean. And so bearing the lead a little bit, a few days ago, just 4 days ago, we received word that the City of Kingston had received a favorable ruling as it relates to our ability to purchase all of these properties. So we are proceeding immediately with the purchase of 7, the only one being 177 Murray that we're still investigating. And all the Phase 1 title, most of the surveys are all done and clean. And so we look forward to that. We appreciate the cooperation with the city to do so. And we are excited to raise our voices accordingly. Sorry. The final property is 143 3rd Avenue, which is a donation that we're continuing to work with the owner who's kind enough to donate to us. We're hoping to have more updates in February. Also, in the pipeline category, it's my understanding that the city is considering an alternative route to pursue properties that may result in us having more opportunities for a pipeline. I think it's too soon to say where that is at this point, but we may have more updates as the months roll by. Finally, I'll give my standard update on the National Community Stabilization Trust, just to say, as I told the board I would say, no updates, no news, nothing changed on that. In the pre-development category, we have 7 properties, which is the same as the last report. Our Legacy Cities 2 updates would have been provided at the Acquisition, Disposition, and Construction Committee section of this meeting. Unfortunately, Owen is unable to make the meeting, but I feel in consultation with the chair that we have covered the meeting items during that meeting, so we may move past that, although there may be some updates from the design committee about their participation in it. Similarly, at 3rd Avenue, we may have some minor updates at ADC. Property sales, we just went up to 4, so we have 3 for sale. Obviously, that is a big milestone for us and for the households involved. Rogers, Hurley, and Franklin, we will be moving forward on our end with the things that have to get done to prepare it for sale, including radon pest homeowner inspection and appraisals. I estimate that we would close within about 60 days, so more updates as that moves forward. And then the sale of 111 Down Street is scheduled to take place on January 30th of this year. Pending new funding opportunities, no change from last month, and just two buckets. The first is the Mid-Hudson Momentum Fund. The minimum award on that is $2.5 million. We're continuing to work on the Third Avenue property to prepare it for that application. I estimate it would probably be for the next quarterly round, which would take place in April. And then the ARPA contract. Through the City of Kingston, we've been offered generously a $1.1 million contract to move forward with our development of affordable properties. We will continue that discussion as the meetings progress. In my other category, this is my final category, I swear, we continue to move forward with the city based on my update last month that the land bank is exempt from municipal fees. And so we're slowly but surely working through that process to receive those fees back to us. It was a new process for the city, so we're both working together to articulate what that looks like on a per property basis. There will be some minor savings there, and we appreciate that. I do have under new business at the end of this meeting, if we have time, if we don't, there are 3 options for an alternative meeting space for this meeting, which could be maybe easier. So I just wanted to note that if we have time, if we don't, I'll cover it over email tomorrow. Also, in the interest of time, tomorrow I will send out some emails requesting holiday schedule at the beginning of the year. I think it's a good thing for us to line up, when we should not have board meetings. We do this every year, so I'll do that tomorrow. And then as Nate mentioned, the board retreat this Friday, super exciting. Won't go into too much detail, but I'm very excited. And we have a blacksmith demonstration in addition to everything else. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Now moving on to the committee reports. So with that, I will turn it over to the new chair of our ADC committee, Aaron Chilowich.
Hello, everybody. As Mike mentioned, Owen is not here to give us the construction updates, but I'll just note that if you look in the board package, the updates are kind of minimal from our last meeting. Rogers is slightly behind schedule, but within reason. It's going to be done now in February, and I think he has said everything is progressing well. With that, I will hand it over to Kyle to talk about the Legacy Cities project from the finance perspective and the Third Avenue pre-development.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, echoing what Aaron just said, business is continuing on
Sorry,
Legacy Cities.
Kyle, could you zoom in on your screen a little bit?
Yes. Is that better?
Perfect. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, so not much to report from last month. The end of the program's in sight. We've completed and sold German and Union, wrapped up work on Hurley, and we'll close out funding there on the final sale there. We anticipate wrapping up work on 29 Rogers next month. This is actually from the previous requisition. We submitted a new requisition just this afternoon. So the balance is actually lower on this 29 Rogers funding. It's around $175,000 in remaining total work there. But yeah, proceeding as expected and hope to have this wrapped up in the coming months. I can answer any questions anyone has on Legacy Cities financing. Otherwise, I'll move on to Third Ave. Great. On Third Ave, we met with our architect team today and engineering team. We've received some updates on potential site plans and building typologies within those site plans. Working with Mike, we're financially modeling out the scenarios, going back and forth and iterating with the architect team on these potential scenarios. Mike and I are working out a calendar to get preliminary site plan approval once we've modeled out something that makes financial sense here, as well as sense for the project in general. But not a ton of specifics to report at this point. We'll report back to you with more updates as the project moves forward.
Can I ask, will there be, I imagine before we do site plan approval, will the board have an opportunity to see, to hear what is being proposed and what you all have been figuring out with the architect and engineering firms?
Yes. No, to get into more detail, we have a calendarized process, which will be checking in with both the board and the committees at regular intervals. once we have something to model and bring back. So, of course.
Sorry, any other questions on Third Avenue before we move on? The last thing that was on our agenda tonight was the City of Kingston's municipal preference policy. We were going to call for a vote to approve that policy as a part of our contract in the ARPA contract, the $1.1 million ARPA contract that Mike mentioned earlier. Just before the meeting, our Pathstone, our kind of marketing agent and partner, who would have to implement the City of Kingston's preference policy, their attorney raised some doubts or questions, and so we'd like to propose to the board to table accepting this for the time being while we figure out a solution that is kind of amenable to the city, to us, and to Pathstone. We don't need to take a vote, I don't think, on that, but and I'll just say that it has to do with different interpretations of fair housing and kind of precedent, and it's an attorney's debate at this point. With that, I will pass it on to our new chair of the Finance Committee, Rebecca.
It's very exciting. I actually prepared notes. It's totally overachieving. But I do think the paperwork can be very confusing, or it's a lot to read, but it's certainly accessible to you. This is just an update of, I dropped my glasses and everything, as an update of where we're at. I don't know. I mean, if you can, I'll read this out loud. I did send it to Mike. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. You would think since I'm in the theater, I would be able to do this. Okay, here we go. Here are the updates from the Finance Committee. 124 Franklin Street is complete, and the retainage has been released to the contractor. We have received the following funds, 350, that's many zeros, 350,000. Okay, Novo 2024 operating grant, 25,000 ARPA grant, 23,135 donations, which is very exciting, and 2,143 interest income, and we're going to come back to interest income. We applied for reimbursement of $50K from the Land Bank Initiative for quarter 2023 operating expenses. We applied for reimbursement of $36,715 from the Land Bank Initiative for Legacy 2 and the Third Avenue project expenses. The 2023 fundraising campaign was successful, obviously, since that nice donation figure was there. And expenses are in line with the budget. And I would say that in an environment of extraordinary movement, interest movement in the market, a lot of volatility, I think it's an extraordinary compliment to the staff that the expenses continue to be in line with the budget. Thank you very much for doing that. It's actually quite remarkable to me. The Descender updates from the KCLB made collaboration, I'm going to call it. Construction on 29 Roger Street is progressing. And once again, the expenses are in line with the budget. So that's kind of the high points of the Finance Committee, and all of the in-depth paperwork is available for you to peruse at your leisure. I'd like to move, or we have something to discuss and to approve, which is the reinvestment of this CD, which allows us to, it's maturing, I guess that's the word, and needs to be, something needs to be done, so we suggest move to reinvest it.
That's right, yeah. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Bartek. Any discussion? No? All in favor? Any opposed? No. Motion passes unanimously. And so with that, we'll move on to discussion of the CD. Who's, are you leading that one?
CD?
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Okay. Before we do that, I just anecdotally, since it's not here, we did have an RFP for the audit accountant and for taxes with Meta, correct? And that we have someone that we would suggest that we hire, who is someone we've worked with before, and that would also give us excellent continuity. And I couldn't possibly see that unless I laid it on the table. Is it down there? I'm not very good at following the rules, I'm sorry. So I'm going to go on with the CD if that's okay, whatever this says, I can't see. Okay, thanks. So I'd like to discuss the reinvestment of the CDs. Anybody want to add more detail to that?
How much is in the CD? 250,000, okay.
And, yeah, it's 250,000, and if we roll it now, it will be at a better rate if we waited to roll it. You didn't hear it? Okay. So the interest rates are going down, so we're suggesting that we get into a CD now instead of waiting. Interest rates are, short-term are much higher than long-term.
And what
so-
is the term that is proposed? What is the term of this CD?
Right now, this one is, current one is at 8 months, and then we are proposing another 8 months.
For interest rate preservation, interest income preservation.
So one point of information, is it, I know it's the same 8 months, is it the same interest rate as the last time? It's higher? Okay, great.
Lower interest rate. Yes, it's a higher interest rate for 8 months, but the 15-month CD is lower.
Any other discussion or questions? No? With that, I'll entertain a motion to renew the CD as reported by Stacy. Motion from Barbara. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Rebecca. Any discussion? No? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much for the clarity of your reporting and ever bringing us closer to true clarity. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I will kick it to Stacy to, wait, there's one more thing. Yeah, that's what
I'm sorry, but if you print out the agenda, okay.
so the next item on the agenda is to Stacy to discuss the audit RFP.
Stacy, take it away.
Should I share my screen? Okay, so Mike and I had put together an RFP for our audit services for the year, for 2024. Well, for 2023, to be performed in 2024. And we got one written proposal back, and that's from the audit team that we've been using. And we looked at the proposal, and we agree that they're the best company for us, based on continuity, and also it's in line with our budget.
So I think it would be in order for us to approve this contract? Yeah?
Correct.
So would anyone like to move to approve the contract? Yeah.
Is there a second? Ethel? Second? All right. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. And with that, we'll move on to the communications, community engagement, and fundraising section of the meeting. Bartek?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Do we want to handle the comms fundraising now or in governance? Sound? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. We briefly discussed the website launch and some additional to-dos that should be done before we promote the fact that we have a new website. That includes a training that is being done on Thursday for staff. We also discussed some of the potential communication items for this month. That includes our new board member and also the sale of 111 Downs. And that, I think, is all I have to report from comms for today.
Great. Thank you. Then all right. All right, so then we'll move on to governance. Do you want to lead this first discussion, Bart? I can if you want. So, sure. So the first discussion item coming out of our governance meeting, we had discussed splitting the communications, community engagement, and fundraising committee into two separate committees. So one for communications, community engagement, and one for fundraising. Just to add some additional context, these two committees were separate, 2 years ago? We voted to combine them as part of our bylaws. There had been some suggestions, recommendations about re-splitting them due to sort of having, although their goals and tasks do overlap a bit, and understanding that they have separate functions, and a suggestion that they should really operate separately again. If we do want to go forward with this, we have to vote on it in order to amend the bylaws again to re-split them. But wanted to open the floor to discussion and comments.
I would just like to know if anyone has an argument they want to put forward as to why it would be beneficial to split them, besides what Nate just stated. If anyone who's been on those committees would speak to that, because I haven't personally been on those committees.
I'm glad to say why I think it was an idea worth discussing. Because I think that, especially moving forward, that the communication and community engagement activities of the Kingston City Land Bank should be further developed from what I observed last year. So I think that that is an important part of what our job is going forward, given the kind of projects that we're looking at. And I think that Mike agrees with that. Maybe not, but I think so. So fundraising is, to me, a slightly different activity. Now, it's possible, even probable, that I don't understand fundraising in this context completely. How is it different from, for instance, moving different kinds of grants or different kinds of monies towards the properties that we're working on? So it may indeed not be efficient to separate them, but it might be useful to separate them as tasks so that it's not necessarily pursued together at all times, right? That sometimes it can be separated into two different tasks that may be in sequence with each other, communication followed by fundraising, or fundraising associated with different kinds of events. And then, an understanding of how things that might be purchased as a fundraising, beautiful bags and other things that we have developed last year, T-shirts, you know, that how do they interact with other kinds of events that we're creating? So that was my thought or thing to look at from a clarity of focus within the committee and task efficiency, really. So that was my thought. I'm not sure that I think now, with further experience, that separating them into different committees makes sense. It's a governance issue, and we don't need to complicate that, but maybe just think about at the retreat how to articulate them more clearly within the context of the committee.
Thanks, Rebecca. Any other comments? I'll just add one that did come up during governance. You know, obviously there is also just, again, I don't have skin in the game one way or the other, but, you know, there was one concern that having, there's only 7 of us, right? So having, you know, 2 committees instead of 1 is a bandwidth issue. Obviously we all are volunteer board members and, you know, it's tough. So that's just another, not every committee has to meet every single month, but you know, it's just something to consider bandwidth as well. All right. Go ahead.
Again, I just want to ask, I mean, thank you for your comments, Rebecca, and I want to ask people who have been on that committee if it feels like they're feeling stretched in both of those roles, or if this is something that has to be done at the beginning of the year since it's January, or if it's something we can revisit later in the year and something we can discuss at the retreat among the blacksmithing.
I mean, I do think if we talk about communications and fundraising as one committee, fundraising tends to be ignored, right? And so, you know, perhaps by separating it out, it forces that committee to actually focus on fundraising, which might be fair. But, you know, I guess I'll repeat, I worry about the capacity of this board. And I do remember when we initially combined the committees, I think I was concerned about combining the committees, but now I'm concerned about the opposite. So maybe something to revisit later on.
And I just want to add, like, we are actively recruiting board members, and so I feel like this could evolve as the year goes on if we have more board members to go around. So that's another component.
Cool.
I guess it might also be a matter of practice in terms of keeping fundraising on the agenda. So maybe, you know, we calendar the meetings specifically to specific topics, so that every other meeting is really about fundraising and that the one meeting is about communications plan. That doesn't get us into a governance thing, but also reminds us that the thing that's less fun, which is fundraising sometimes, is something we should focus on, you know, or not as easily articulated, perhaps. That'd be a better way of saying it.
So based on the discussion, here's what I think might be the best approach. Is right now in the bylaws they're combined. We can keep them combined, but emphasize to, I guess it would be Bartek, our board chair or committee chair for that committee, that, you know, the committee's agenda include at least one item that focuses on fundraising. And I don't know if you guys want to do a subcommittee that focuses on fundraising. You know, we can be a little more a task force there. That's a good way to do it too. But we can keep it so that at least they meet together and can coordinate on, you know, to the extent there is overlap. And maybe it means, you know, within that committee, you guys can appoint a sort of vice chair for fundraising of the committee. I don't know. Defer to the committee to handle however you want. But just putting a little more emphasis on that piece of it.
Agreed.
All right.
And I just want to add, I am grateful to whoever brought this up, and if it was Rebecca, I'm grateful to you because I think it's important that we don't just do things because of that's what we've been doing, and so it's always good to take a new look at things and see if it's working for us. So thank you for bringing that.
I'm not quite sure how it happened, but apparently the fundraising was quite successful. And so I compliment that happening at the end of the year and look forward to learning more about the modality of that and how we can repeat that somehow.
So that, I guess with that, I'll entertain a motion to table a vote on splitting the committees. Is there a motion from Rebecca? Seconded from Bartek. All in favor of tabling that vote? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Great. So, do you want to cover it? I can. All right. So also one thing in the bylaws we discussed is right now there is a residency requirement where you must be a Kingston resident in order to be on the board. We have discussed revisiting that and allowing it to be, giving the board a little more discretion to bring in people who may not live in Kingston but otherwise have a strong tie to the community and an interest in our mission. And so because of, is it open records laws we have to do it, or is it our bylaws we have to do a first reading? So included in the board package, there is a copy of the amendment to the charter, which would change that. Does it currently also include, I think it currently also includes the change to the committees, right? Is it two separate amendments right now in the package? Got it. See, it shows how clearly I read the agenda. So it's all the way at the bottom of the board package. It starts on page 43. Is that right? 43, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, all it is to remove the residency requirement. And then it also, there's also a line in our bylaws which aims to distribute board members by county legislative district. And so we're also removing that. And partly is we can't figure out what the lines are, but,
Neither can the state.
but
so-
also it's a little bit arbitrary given that the lines just changed. I don't know why we have this. And then also in terms of the residency requirement, I think this opens the door to people who, maybe work in Kingston, but also people that have been priced out of Kingston for whatever reason, maybe just living just beyond the city's borders. And so I think it's just a more inclusive way to govern. And we have had past board applications from individuals that do not live in the city of Kingston that would otherwise be qualified. So I think this is a good idea.
And I guess just to state, this would be, opening it up to Ulster County? Or would we have to think about a new, or just, and beyond?
It would just remove the residency requirement.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. And I think we could also note that, there have been previous board members who've had to leave the board because of moving. And that I think originally this came about in order to prevent favoritism of certain areas in the city. But I think our work dictates that we go wherever there are houses to be had. So it's not, I feel that that as an argument isn't really at play because it's not quite possible in a city of this size.
So we have to have a first reading of the amendment and discussion at this meeting, but we're not actually voting on it right now. But I will open the floor if anybody else has other comments or discussion or questions. Go ahead, Rebecca.
I, Bartek, thank you for articulating why it would be useful to do that. Certainly the county line thing seems unmanageable, really, and unclear. So I have some dubious feelings about it, the Kingston residency being undone because of other work I've done with other committees in the city with members from other parts of the community. I mean, not from this community, but Ulster County, right? So I would hate for the Kingston-specific nature of the land bank to be diluted on the board completely. So maybe there's a compromise that we could look at when we come back to it, where 2/3 of the board members maybe, or there's some other way to keep an eye on it so it doesn't drift, so that the board doesn't drift away from residency in Kingston, or at least Kingston as a primary commitment. I do think it's different to live in a community and make decisions for it than to make decisions for it when you don't live there. So, so that's something I just would like to keep an eye on and think about when we come back to it. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. If I could just address those comments in a way that might help with some of your concerns. So, because that was one thing that we did discuss when we talked about governance. And, ultimately at the end of the day, if we have new board members who apply and are seeking to join the board, we all still have the opportunity to vote on it. And so we can take those issues into account when deciding whether or not we think someone, fits with our mission and our goals and the community. I guess another sort of check and balance is that technically we all have to be appointed by the mayor, so the mayor could always say no. So there are checks and balances is the point I'm trying to make. Any other discussion items, questions? No? Okay, so we will put that on the agenda for next month's meeting. And moving on to the design committee. So design committee hasn't actually met yet, and so we technically haven't elected a new design chair, but I'll just jump in and handle this one. It's going to be pretty short, mostly because we already talked about it. The new website launch, again, please, unless you're on the city Wi-Fi, which blocks our website for some reason apparently, please encourage you to go check out the new website and play around with it. Let me and Joanna know if you have any comments or run into any issues. We're still, like I said, sort of a soft launch, and so we have a whole list of things that are on our list that once we go through this training next week to learn how to sort of hand over the keys and we can manage it ourselves. We can make little changes. So play around with it. If you find anything that doesn't work or is buggy or something else, please let us know. We'll add it to our list and we can make those changes. I think it's Thursday. I don't know. Yeah. We'll email the design committee. Only other item on the design committee is we're finalizing the Legacy City 2 design recommendations. I think those are pretty close, right? If they haven't, go ahead.
Yes. No, no I would say just to try to flesh that out for you. Sure. So we are hoping to finalize the comments that were incorporated from the design committee and from Owen and others working on the project. The architect is sending those back to us, for which we'll then bring back to the design committee for a final pass. And the goal is to launch the RFP on February 16th. So, yeah.
Okay. So 16th. So lastly, we'll move on to new business. Up for discussion is discussing a possible new location for our monthly board meetings. So, oh, so is public comment? Oh, sorry, I skipped public comments. My bad. So public comments. There is nobody still present here in the room. Anybody on Zoom? There was a question on Zoom. What's the client ID for the lottery winner?
I'll just pull it up so everyone can see. No, you can't see that. So the question, hi, this is Mike. The question that you're asking over text, and by the way, you can unmute yourself if you'd like to talk, but I'll just keep talking until then. You asked, what is the client ID for the lottery winner? I would direct you to reach out to Eileen Clifford at Patstone, who you've probably been working with. We held the lottery earlier in this meeting, and we actually selected 3 contract winners for the 3 houses and 1 through 4 alternates for each of the houses. So it's a little convoluted to jump into it right now. I would ask you to reach out to Eileen for that. Hopefully that helps.
Great. So with that, unless there's any other public comments, it sounds like there's not. Okay, now I will go back and jump into new business. So we had discussed a possible new location for our monthly board meetings. As a reminder, we sort of tabled that discussion so that there was still continuity with the lottery happening tonight and there wasn't confusion over where to go and people showing up to City Hall and didn't want to create issues. So we kept things here at City Hall for tonight, but we had discussed the potential of a couple new locations for our monthly board meeting going forward. 3 locations are 13 Franklin at Radio Kingston, the Clinton Avenue Church, and the Broadway Bubble. Obviously, I think we need to check and make sure that there's adequate tech functions so that we still have the same reporting up to YouTube. We still have the same availability of people to join over Zoom, but setting that aside, I wanted to open the floor if there's any discussion or questions.
Just to be clear, have all of these been offered to us as meeting spaces?
We've been offered the opportunity to have them offered to us. I'm talking about the Broadway Bubble and the Clinton Avenue Church. So there was a facilitator that said they would help us if there was interest.
I think Franklin Street is a great environment, good location, a great environment, very accessible, and I would assume from being there fully wired in the way that we would need it to be wired, but provides both comfort for the meetings and community engagement of less municipal nature, perhaps. So I think it's an excellent environment, and I recommend it highly. And it's fun, too. I know that's not allowed, but it's fun, so it's good.
As a point of information, I don't know if this is for you, Mike or Bartek, if you guys know, does it say in our bylaws that we have to have the meeting at City Hall? I forget.
Yes,
It does.
But we can vote by resolution to have it elsewhere.
Okay, perfect. That's what I thought. So we can, go ahead, Joanna.
In order to do that, we'd have to push it to what we did with the other thing. So we'd have, next meeting would be to read it, or no?
Well, we could,
No, it doesn't require a change in the bylaws.
Okay.
It just says we have to do a resolution, vote by resolution to change the location. So it would still be respecting the bylaws.
Okay,
right.
thank you.
So we could vote tonight if we wanted to do the next meeting at an alternate location, or vote at the next meeting to have the following one.
We could
so on.
try it.
Would we have to keep voting each time? No, just once. Okay, I'm just making sure.
Any other discussion, questions? No? If not, then I can entertain a motion if anybody's interested.
Motion that until further notice, the Kingston City Land Bank meets monthly at 13 Franklin.
Okay. Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? Kind of already discussed, but. No? Okay. All in favor of future meetings until further notice to be held at 13 Franklin? All right. Any opposed? No? Lots of unanimous votes tonight. Motion passes unanimously. So next month, we'll be at the exciting 13 Franklin location at Radio Kingston. Any other new business that anyone would like to discuss? If not,
If
I
you've
will.
not been there before, it's not really obvious, so we'll tie a balloon to the door or something.
Excellent. Then with that, if there's no other new business, then I can entertain a motion to adjourn. Don't all jump at once. Motion from Ethel to adjourn. Do I have a second? Seconded from Barbara. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. And with that, we are adjourned.